To mill 2 cups of wheat berries.
Oh, wow.
In here, okay? So let's get it prepped up. Is this set up the right thing, Andrew? Do you know? Okay, so ready, set, go. Okay, get it going. Get it going. When you get tired, we're gonna switch off. Okay, we're getting there. One nice thing, if you have a square container, that works nicer than a round one, so you can catch everything better. Andrew? Can you tighten that up? Oh, hold on. Pause. Pause the timer.
Okay.
Okay, try it again. Okay, here we go. Start again. Good job. Getting there. So this is, oh, someone else? All right. It's a workout, isn't it? Did you sweat any? Not yet? Okay. So this is basically, we're making a wheat-based flatbread. So we call it survival bread. So this is using something we've put in long-term storage, like we packed that bucket yesterday with wheat berries. And so we're using our supply. So we're grinding it manually because we lost our power. We're off grid now. So we got to use our manual crank. And so it takes a lot of work. And if we had some fancy attachment, maybe we could set up a bike where you could just pedal and that would run it. So that would be my dream. We're getting there. So start to finish grinding it. Then I'm just gonna mix it up. The recipe is simple as possible. And then we're gonna kind of bake it up on the rocket stove over there. So we have 3 different rocket stoves set up. Nathan's manning one of them. All right, Kai's turn. Getting there. So the simple thing is kind of 2 to 1. We're gonna do like 2 cups of flour. That'd be about a cup of water. A 2 to 1 ratio. Put in a little salt. That helps the flavor a bit. And then I'm gonna just mix it all up, probably with my hands since I forgot my spoon. Do you want to get me a spoon? And then mix it up and then roll it out. But when I first mix it up, then I'm gonna have to let it sit for about half an hour while my sister talks about sprouting, soaking and sprouting. So I'll get it mixed up. But that's it, 2 to 1 ratio, a little bit of salt. Mix it up, let it sit for 30 minutes, and then I'll be back to knead it for 5 to 8 minutes, and let it sit again for 10 minutes, and then we'll finally get it over there to bake it up. We're almost there. Way to go, Kaiser. Getting down to the last few things here. got a little coming out. That's great. Everybody got a chance to do it? All right. Perfect.
Just a little bit left.
There's a tiny bit left in there.
That's a lot easier.
Much easier now, yeah. All right, that's good. What's the time?
5 minutes and 15 seconds.
All right, 5 minutes and 15 seconds.
Hi, I'm Brenda, otherwise known as BK, Becky's sister. Yes, we're twins, in case you were wondering. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about soaking and sprouting, but I'm going to give you a little more background about why would you want to do this, and talk a little bit about autoimmune issues and recovery. During COVID, I needed something to do because I wasn't working very much. And I took the medical missionary course from Mercy Ballard and Joyce Cha, and learned a lot of this from them. A lot of the information is coming from their book here. This is their cookbook. It has a lot of good info and some good recipes and a menu plan. Anyway, so just a summary on autoimmune disease. So I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but I have in my line of work, patients are coming in, I'm a physical therapist. Patients are coming in they're sicker, they have more going on, and they have chronic disease. Just more and more complicated issues. I think COVID helped bring some of that on with people delaying care. And now they're coming in with multiple things going on. But anyway, it's certainly chronic disease is on the rise. Inflammation seems to be at the root of many issues and certainly impacts the immune system, including allergies, cancer, and autoimmune disease. Autoimmune diseases have become one of the most common chronic conditions affecting Americans for sure. In autoimmune disease, the immune system can attack any system or organ in the body. So basically, your body is attacking itself. And examples of this can include Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, lupus, Sjogren's disease, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis. Those are some examples. There could be some genetic predisposition, but other triggers causing inflammation include infections, toxins, mold, pesticides, plastics, heavy metals, hair dyes, cosmetics and body care ingredients, pharmaceutical drugs, vaccines, oral contraceptives, hormone replacement therapy, sugar, refined carbs, flavor enhancers, aroma enhancers, preservatives, emulsifiers, thickeners, vinegars, pickled food, stress, emotional, physical, and mental, bitterness, resentment and lack of forgiveness, depression, lack of sleep, lack of exercise, lack of sunlight, lack of fresh air. Whoa, that's a lot. Did you know that 70 to 80% of the body's immune cells are located in the digestive system, basically in your gut? So the lining of the gut, the epithelium, is where the digestion and absorption of food takes place. And that's where the microbiome live. The bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, the microbiome is essential for good digestion, physical strength, healthy emotions, and a balanced immune function. In autoimmune disease and other chronic diseases, the gut microbiome has been significantly altered and ends up within a state of imbalance called dysbiosis, where the helpful bacteria are outnumbered by harmful. So gut health is distinctly correlated with autoimmune disease as well as other chronic diseases. So due to the breakdown of the epithelial layer, some people call that leaky gut. This can occur leading to sensitivities to various foods with symptoms that may include pain, allergies, eczema, fatigue, brain fog, a number of things. But good news. The gut microbiome responds favorably to modification in lifestyle, and especially the diet. So Joyce and Mercy have this, the 3 R's of eating to heal. So R1 is remove. So you want to remove inflammatory foods that feed bad bacteria and increase risk of leaky gut. This commonly includes gluten, soy, corn, eggs, dairy, meat, yeast. Oats sometimes end up on this list too these days. You can take a food sensitivity test through IntroLab to help determine exactly what you might be sensitive to. Question is there anything left to eat? Yes, there is. Anyway, so just a bit on gluten. People that have a problem with gluten, they may have celiac disease. But I think probably we're seeing more too is just gluten sensitivity. You might not have celiac, but you might be sensitive to gluten. Issues for this include hybridization of wheat. It can make our modern wheat more difficult to digest. Monocropping, where they just use the same piece of land over and over for the same crop. And we've known that for years. You should rotate crops, right? I'm not a farmer, I know that. But it happens. And then they have intense use of pesticides. So you've got poor soil conditions. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup, and that was patented as a mineral chelator, antibiotic, and herbicide. And that's found to be negatively impacting various cellular enzymes. Grains and nuts may not be well tolerated early on in the healing process and might need to put on hold, as well as nightshades, which are potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, peppers. R2 would be to replace. So you've removed a bunch of stuff. Now you're going to replace the harmful with the helpful food to help repopulate the gut with the diverse microbial life that it should have. So we're looking at raw plant foods. You want to think about 70% of the diet to be raw. Eating fresh, maybe even frozen organic foods grown without harmful pesticides or GMOs, genetically modified organisms. You want to avoid the canned foods because of metals, plastic, BPA exposure, all that. And also prepackaged foods have preservatives and additives that are detrimental to gut health, and actually can include a lot of this glyphosate as well, which can destroy gut bacteria and bind to important minerals, which has significant health consequences. So eating a high fiber diet to promote good bacteria. So where do you get fiber? Plants, right. So plant sources only. So avoiding animal products, eating a whole food, plant-based diet from organic sources. Use foods with healthy fats such as avocados, seeds, coconut, and nuts to add fats to the diet without using free extracted fats. So the R3 would be to repair. So you need to repair the digestive system with healthy superfoods. You might be taking more in turmeric, garlic, carob, actually, maca, dried herbs. Fasting can help. Using natural remedies. Becky can be talking more about that. Hydrotherapy, poultices. They even talk a lot about enemas. You want to follow regular meal times, eat smaller amounts, avoid drinking with your meals if you can. That actually can kind of wash out some of your digestive enzymes. So avoid certain food combinations even. The fasting helps to reset the digestive system and decrease inflammatory mediators. And it's recommended that the third meal of the day be very light or not even eaten. And this daily intermittent fasting can help speed recovery when you're trying to recover. During the early phases of healing and gut restoration, grains and nuts might be avoided because they're a little more difficult to digest. And then pseudo grains such as quinoa, amaranth, buckwheat, and quinoa are used instead of grains. And seeds like pumpkin and sunflower are used instead of nuts. So when we start thinking about soaking and sprouting, one of the reasons is to remove anti-nutrients. So what are anti-nutrients? I went on a little search for that myself. I mean, I just wanted to know a little bit more in depth, but anti-nutrients are compounds that can interfere with nutrient absorption. Major sources of anti-nutrients include grains, seeds, nuts, and legumes. Some not only interfere with nutrient absorption, but bind to the intestinal wall and cause intestinal inflammation as well. So soaking, sprouting, and cooking are all processes that will decrease the anti-nutrient content and increase nutrient availability and digestibility. Some anti-nutrients may be found in fruit and vegetables, but mainly we're going to talk about these other ones that are in seeds and grains and legumes. Some of the main anti-nutrients of concern include lectins. Those are found mostly in legumes like beans, peanuts, soybeans, as well as whole grains. Lectins alter gut function and interfere with the absorption of calcium, iron, phosphorus, and zinc. There are oxalates. They're found mostly in green leafy vegetables, tea, beans, nuts, beetroots. Oxalates may bind to calcium, prevent it from being absorbed in the digestive system, and increase risk of kidney stones. There are phytates or phytic acid, found mostly in whole grains, seeds, legumes, and some nuts, which may decrease absorption of iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium. There are saponins, found mostly in legumes and whole grains, that can interfere with normal nutrient absorption. There's tannins. They're found in tea, coffee, and legumes that can decrease iron absorption. Phytoestrogens are found in a variety of plant foods, such as fruit, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds. These are estrogen-like compounds that have many health benefits, but may also act as endocrine disruptors, where they can actually interfere with hormones. Glucosinolates are found mostly in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kale, may prevent absorption of iodine. So low iodine intake may disrupt the function of the thyroid gland and increase risk of goiter, the swelling and enlargement in the neck. So generally, anti-nutrients may prevent digestion and absorption of some minerals and come with other negative effects such as altered gut function, increased inflammation, endocrine disruption, or increased risk of calcium kidney stones. So if you suffer from malnutrition or your diet consists mainly of such foods, these anti-nutrients may be a concern. However, there are some scientists actually questioning the general advice to avoid foods containing anti-nutrients because there's some evidence that these anti-nutrients may actually be beneficial. So it gets a little confusing as we find out more. So many plant-based foods high in anti-nutrients may also have the beneficial nutrients such as antioxidants, fiber, and other vitamins and minerals, and have anti-inflammatory, cholesterol-lowering, blood sugar stabilizing, and gut-friendly properties, and therefore they are important foods to include in a healthy diet. Phytates, for example, have been found to lower cholesterol, slow digestion, and prevent sharp rises in blood sugar. Many anti-nutrients have antioxidant and anti-cancer actions, so avoiding them entirely is not recommended. So they're not necessarily harmful and not a major concern for most people, but if you are eating a varied and balanced diet, these compounds are probably of little concern. But plant-based diets, which contain these compounds, also contain thousands of other compounds in the food matrix, many of which counteract the potential effects of the anti-nutrients. In other words, compounds in your food may block the anti-nutrients that block the nutrients. You want me to say that again? Tongue twister. Compounds in your food may block the anti-nutrients that block the nutrients. Anyway, Okay, so overall, the health benefits of eating a more plant-based foods outweigh the possible negative nutritional effects of anti-nutrients. So there's pros. Some anti-nutrients act as antioxidants. Some have cancer-fighting ability. Some may boost the immune system. Foods and anti-nutrients are often sources of dietary fiber and other beneficial nutrients. There's some cons. They may be difficult for some people to digest. Phytoestrogens may behave like endocrine disruptors. High amounts of oxalates can contribute to kidney stones and may reduce the absorption of some minerals. So soaking and sprouting and cooking can help reduce anti-nutrients, increase nutrient availability and digestibility. So if you're sick, if you're ill, have autoimmune disease, some of the things going on, this might be worth doing for the short term at least, and maybe becoming a habit if you still have issues with certain foods. Because sometimes they remove all these foods for a couple of months, maybe 4 months, up to 4 months, and then you start trying to reintroduce some foods. As your body heals, you might be able to be fine with them again. But if you continue to have issues with some of these foods, you're just going to wipe it out of your diet, right? Why would you keep doing that? So anyway, let's see here. We're going to go on to just a little demonstration on the soaking. So beans and legumes are generally soaked in water. Helps improve their nutritional value. Most of the anti-nutrients in these foods are found in the skin. So since anti-nutrients are water soluble, they simply dissolve when foods are soaked. In legumes, soaking has been found to decrease phytate, protease inhibitors, lectins, tannins, and calcium oxalate. And then when you go to sprouting, it's kind of a period in the life cycle of plants where they start emerging from seed. So it's also known as germination. But the process increases the availability of nutrients in seeds, grains, and legumes. So when you're sprouting, you're just boosting the nutritional availability that your body can absorb more nutrients. So sprouting also reduces phytates in grains and legumes and may slightly degrade lectins and protease inhibitors. Boiling is also effective at reducing various anti-nutrients, including lectins, tannins, protease inhibitors, and calcium oxalates. So, so doing all of the soaking, sprouting, and then cooking, all works together. So, what I usually do, so I live in Minnesota, and I usually will, since I've been doing this, pretty regularly, every week, I will take a mason jar, and I'll put a cup of quinoa in here, and water. So I'll fill it with water. Done. Sit that one on the counter. This is white beans I'll fill, but these really expand a lot more sometimes, so I'll put maybe just half. When it's just me, I'll just maybe do half a cup. But you could probably fit a whole cup in here and just fill it with water. Room temperature water. This is one I did with buckwheat. Okay. This one has already been sprouted. I just, last night I put a regular cover and I stuck it in the fridge. Kind of put it on hold. Okay, so if you want to come and look at it, you can see tiny little spikes sticking out of the buckwheat. So it's sprouted a little bit. So normally I let things soak for about 12 hours and then I will let it sprout for 12. So during the winter months, it might take a little bit longer. But so when I'm soaking, I usually just have it on my counter. When I'm ready to rinse it out again, I'll just show you briefly on rinsing. So these are nice sprouting lids. So they kind of have this little water can go right down in there easy, and when you turn it on upside down or on its side, these keep allow for airflow. But these take a bit of rinsing, so normally you just fill it up. So I've got the sink running on room temperature, and then I will rinse it up here. And usually what works nice if you kind of turn on its side and kind of move it around here. And then you can drain it. Fill it up again. And you keep kind of rinsing it out until you have kind of clear water. And then once you've rinsed everything, then I just will sit it in here. It's full of water right now, but I'll put 2 or 3 in here. So it's kind of on their side a little bit so they can drain. Okay, so they'll be sitting like that for about 12 hours. And you find kind of a dark, sort of warm place in your house. My friend Yin puts it in her oven. That doesn't work for me because I forget I put stuff in there and then I turn the oven on. So then, what works for me is in my bathroom behind the door. I have a heat register right there. So I put them on the floor in my bathroom. That's the warmest spot. So things sprout pretty good in there. The only problem is when I'm doing buckwheat, I usually take it out of the jar and I put it in fine mesh. Okay, so I'll dump it in there and I'll rinse it really good, and I will just set that in another bucket and I put a towel over it. That goes on the floor in my bathroom. Problem is when my cat walks in there and decides it's a nice place to nap. And then I'll come and find a little dent in there with the towel. Buckwheat stuck to the towel. But anyway, it comes right off. And then, so after I time it, because I do work full time, so I will time it where I start soaking at night. I rinse things off in the morning, they sprout all day. In the evening, I've got time to cook it up. So then when I get home, I'll give it a good rinse again and then put it in a pot. And usually it's a 2-to-1 deal. So if there's 1 cup of buckwheat, I'll put 2 cups of water and like a half teaspoon of salt, and I'll cook it up. It cooks up pretty fast, probably less than 10 minutes. I got cooked buckwheat. Quinoa goes pretty fast too. The same amount, 2-to-1, half a teaspoon of salt. I usually use like Celtic salt or pink salt. And then I let that cool down, and then I just put another container and just stick it in the fridge, and I'll eat the buckwheat for breakfast. So I'll eat the quinoa for lunch with some salad or something. And, so it's part of my meals during the week. I also do like sunflower seeds. So I have one of these NutriBullet things. So I make a sunflower power smoothie or the pumpkin seed smoothie. So all those recipes are in here. But so those are my seeds I get through the smoothie, and I add some fruit in there, carob, ground up flaxseed. So a number of things you can mix in there and have a pretty healthy power boost smoothie in the morning. Can't eat the whole thing. It takes me 3 servings to eat one of those bigger NutriBullet things. But anyway, so that's what I do with the soaking and the sprouting. I have heard that, like with legumes, if you're having trouble with tolerating the beans, give it some extra rinses. You could start cooking it, get the water boiling, then take it off, rinse it again, boil it again, take it off, rinse it, boil it again with new water each time. So sometimes that helps. I think Yin actually freezes it sometimes. So freeze the beans, and that kills some of the enzymes.
Yeah, at the class I went to in Michigan, that's what they do with all their beans. They
Freeze them.
24 hours and then freeze, and then it's ready to
Ready to cook, yeah. So there's a number of ways to do it. Anyway,
After you soak it or before?
after,
Yeah, after.
yeah.
Soak it more, usually before you drink the water. And then it's like a gallon of
Right. And Andrew had these sprouting little boxes, so we thought we'd try a few things in there. This is alfalfa.
How long did that take?
So I started this, is it Monday night?
Tuesday night, yeah.
Tuesday night? So it's been going a couple of days. This one went pretty fast. It could go maybe a slightly longer. There's a lot of fuzz underneath. See all the roots sticking out. And then we did some, these are a little slower coming along. These are broccoli seeds sprouting. So you could, Andrew suggested waiting until it fills up most of the bin here. So it might take a few more days. I think I read somewhere these could take 5 to 7 days sprouting. So rinse it a couple times a day. Drain out the water. There's nothing in the bottom one here. I just use that to contain the little stuff underneath. Yeah, so those sprouting, those contain a lot of good nutrients. So you could add that to your salad or whatever, sandwiches.
I'm going to talk just a few minutes on when we have food insecurity. So when we have food insecurity, we're going to probably be down to just a few items left in the pantry. What do you do with that food to change it up a little bit? Food fatigue can become a real thing. We in the United States get food fatigue. We don't eat the same thing every day for a week, but in other countries they do. But we have a problem with that. So what you can do for food fatigue is a couple things that are very easy. For one, you're probably going to be out of oil. You're not going to have any oil because that's usually the first thing to go. Has anybody read the book, A Thousand Shall Fall? That explains what is going to happen with the food. They were down to bread and jam. So they had to make do with what they had. Then they were down to just what they foraged. So it was quite interesting to read that book. So if you guys want some insight onto what might be coming our way, read the book. Something simple that you don't have to add any other ingredients to change your food is to toast the food. So I'm going to toast. It's just a dry pan, and we've had it heating. I'm going to turn it up. So this is a dry pan, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to toast food. And I am doing macaroni. Can you see how dark it is compared? Anytime you add color to food, you're adding flavor. Don't add too much color. Black is not the color you want. You want brown or light tan, and then you will have a good flavor. Bread, when you toast it, it changes the flavor. That's what you're going to do with the food staples that you have. I have macaroni, rice can be toasted, oats, still cut. When I make my still cut oats, I toast them in a skillet, and it gives them a nutty flavor. And nuts. Nuts are going to be your protein. Nuts are a protein. And when you toast nuts, it enhances the flavor of the nut. And so you use less if you're using it for flavor. Nuts have oil in it. I never toast the nuts before I toast my grains because it will put oil in the pan. So when you're toasting, you just keep it in motion. And it's not hard. And you can smell the fragrance. And then you would just keep moving it around. I'm not going to go through the whole toasting process with you because I have an example. But it's not a hard thing. This is exactly how I toasted everything here. Just move it around in the pan. Keep it in motion when it gets really hot. I just turned this up, so it's going to take a little bit with that. But I'll keep an eye on it, hopefully. We won't burn it. Another thing, food insecurity. You don't have a lot. You're not going to be making portions for people to have big bowls of food. You're going to be sharing your food. People are going to be at your home. If you're a refuge, you don't know how many people God's going to send to your way. So when you're making your food, you want to make it so that everybody gets something. And we will be satisfied, we're told, with our food. So if you have small portions, say everybody gets half a cup of soup. You have soup. You put a half a cup in this size bowl. Is that going to be visually? We eat with our eyes first. You always look at your food and evaluate it first. So you're going to want to put it not in this bowl, but I have these are antique jelly jars. I collect some antiques. I love them. These I was gifted. These came from my mother. But these are jelly jars. They're made to hold hot food. So as things started happening, a half a cup in this jelly jar, I have like 15 of them, will look a lot more filling than a half a cup in this bowl. So think about portion sizes and what you're serving it in. Another thing is you're down to just a few root vegetables, and we're in the hungry gap now. So when you're in the hungry gap, you're not out able to forage much. Around here, we can still find a few things in the winter. How do you feed somebody if you've got just a few root vegetables? You're going to make soup. You're going to make soups a lot. You're not going to be doing a casserole and then side dishes. You're going to make one thing, and usually a soup, a pureed soup, because if you do not puree the soup, some people will get vegetables and some people won't. You want you want the nutrients that are in the soup to be throughout so that everybody gets the same nutrition from what you have. And to do that, this didn't fit on the table earlier. So we're not going to have power. If you're not solar, and we're talking somebody without solar, you're not going to have power. So how would you puree the soup? Well, you cook the vegetables. You can strain them out. Yep, starting to toast. You cook the vegetables, strain them out, put them in. I have a large mortar and pestle. That's what I'm going to call it. I know it has another name. And then you can grind them. This would be a way to be able to, when you put it back in the broth, distribute the solids to everybody. So when you get your half cup of soup or whatever amount you have, you're getting the same nutrition as the person next to you. Another way, if you don't have one of these, you can mash your vegetables. You take them out. You want to cook them first because then you get that soft texture. They will mash. So you mash them and then put it back into the broth, and there you go. You have the same effect. So you don't need one of these, but if you have one, use it. And start using it now so that you know how to use it when it's time, so that not everything is new. And I've told you, I think a few years ago in one of my classes, I mentioned during one of the hurricanes in Florida, a family was totally prepared. They were all prepared. They had their preps ready. The hurricane came, and after 3 days, they said they almost couldn't do it anymore because they hadn't practiced. It wasn't normal routine. It was more stressful for them to do these new preps, getting their water, trying to cook food over their stove. their wood stove. It wasn't practical for them. But if they had put them in those preps into their lives, little by little, they would have become used to them. And then when the crisis came, they would have just continued with daily life. It wouldn't have been a crisis moment. So think about that. Everybody, start doing the little things to prepare yourself. Make small changes in your life for when you're not going to have power and have all your things. Okay, I have one more thing. I'm going to turn this off. It is toasted. And you can smell the toasty flavor. Your hand's busy. Becky is kneading the dough. She is going to knead for 5 to 8 minutes. And then that's to develop the gluten in the flour. And then she's going to let it rest for 10 minutes. And then it will be ready to go whenever she is.
Perfect.
I have one more thing going. Now, you all were here yesterday when I talked about the Wonder Bag. Okay, let's just hope. So what I did, and I've talked about this for when Sabbath preparation or any night's preparation. Last night at 10:30, I put hot boiling water in this, and it's been, 13 hours? Let's see. Oh, longer. It's still warm. In fact, it feels good. So we're going to see. And what you can do when you get your Wonder Bag or make your Wonder Bag, if you are so inclined, experiment with it. I covered this because I knew we were going to be a while with extra towels. And then I put 2 more around the bottom of the pot to go and hold in the bottom of the pot. So I told you about my pots. They're made to stay sealed. I drove over here. I did not realize how bumpy my driveway was or how bumpy Andrew's is. And I didn't realize his driveway in some spots are like this. I'm thinking the water. Okay, this has sealed. So these are Renaware, if you can find them. My sister-in-law was a Spanish interpreter for their company. And we were gifted Renaware. But Renaware is one of the nicest pots I've ever owned. This water I can hold my finger in it, but it's hot. And I will say, anybody who wants to can come up and fill the water. We're not drinking it or using it. If this were soup, it would still be hot after 14 hours. Not quite 14. And if you make tea, that's why I have multiple. You have your hot beverage, your wash water, and your breakfast. 3. And then in the morning, you have 3 hot items. Any questions on the Wonder Bag? I did bring, because I was going to talk about it a little bit more today, I did bring the directions. So I've got them here somewhere. And in it, it gives you specific times for different foods that it will cook. This is a cooking bag. So you start it and it finishes the cooking for you. I did have an update. You guys, who was here when I talked about the gems? Anybody? So what I said was, if you found out anything else about the gems, let me know. Well, Andy found something about gems. The gem recipe I was using was Sister White's recipe, and it was a batter, and I could not get that to work. But Andy in Back to Eden found they have a gem recipe, and it is more of a dough recipe. So this makes better sense for now because we do not have the technique to make the batter gems. I mean, I could fiddle with it a bit more and maybe I could figure it out, but we don't, it's not been passed down to us. And it's obviously a technique that they knew that we don't. That's why learn techniques. The browning of your food will change it. And then what would I use the browned pasta in? I would put this in soups. It will add a nuttier, more umami flavor to your soups. And the oats, they're on their own. They just stand alone with it. You little cinnamon and some almond milk. And I cook mine on the stove. For if it's the still cut, I cook them for longer on the stove, maybe 10 minutes, 15. And then I put it in this the night before, and in the morning it's still warm. And it's almost like a rice pudding.
So the next thing we're just going to talk about briefly is how to make some gluten-free tortillas. Just a couple things in the recipe. That's about it. When I learned about this, Mercy Ballard had done a YouTube videos free out there. You can find it on the internet very easily. Her recipe is 2.5 cups cooked yucca, 1 cup cassava flour, 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, so where I live, I have one store that actually carries yucca. And so I was able to do this at home. You can also substitute sweet potatoes. You don't have yucca. And I tried that at home too. So I did that just very recently. And then when I came here, how many stores did we check, Becky? 4. Anyway, we cannot find yucca. I don't think people eat it in this area.
It's also called cassava.
Cassava, but even, we call this place up in
Winco, Food Savers.
have you found it? We tried all kinds of places. No, I called the Whole Food place up there, and so I know what you're talking about. We don't have it. Anyway, so I'm demonstrating with sweet potatoes today. If you can find yucca, there you go. The thing with yucca, and honestly, if I can do this, you guys can do this. I am one who I feel like I don't belong in the kitchen. It's like, it's not a safe place for me. But I manage. And I did, when I found yucca, I cooked it, I used scraped the stuff off, with the peeler, and then chopped it up, and I boiled it like a potato. And then I read the instructions later. And so there is a fiber down the middle of yucca that you want to remove. And I didn't realize that. I had already chopped it up. So I had to go through all these little pieces and find the fiber and remove it. Probably a little easier if you take care of this the right way. But if you can maybe cut yucca more longitudinally, you'll find that fiber down the middle, and you can just boom, it's gone. Me, no, I cut it all the other way. And then I had to find all the little fibrous things, but it just took a little longer. But anyway, got the job done. When I used yucca, the recipe seemed to be more accurate as far as the 1 cup of cassava flour. So this is cassava flour. Usually this is how I can find it in Bob's Red Mill bag. So So when I first mixed it together, when you're watching Mercy do this video, she has some neat little blender that she just put it all in, and it somehow magically became dough. When I tried it at home, none of my blenders work like that. So anyway, I ended up dumping it out of 2 different blenders and doing it by hand. And then it was fine. So that's mostly how I do it now. It's just, I'll cook the yucca or the sweet potato, whatever it is, mash it up, and then start adding flour. Start with the 1 cup. I thought it was super dry at first when I did the yucca, so I added a little water, and then I realized now it's too wet, and I'm like, I'm trying to titrate this dough until you get it right. And then once you have it right where it's not going to stick so much to the plastic, then you're good. But it took a little fiddling to get there. When I did sweet potatoes, they were much more wet, I think. So I, instead of 1 cup, I ended up with probably 2 or 3 cups. So just start with a full bag. Anyway, so that's what I did this morning too. I cooked up some sweet potatoes, and then got about 2.5 cups of sweet potato, and then no fibrous thing in the middle of sweet potato to worry about. So anyway, then I started with the 1 cup, and I know, that's not I'm gonna be adding a lot of flour. So I probably ended up 2.5 to 3 cups of flour until I got the dough enough where I can work with it and get it back off the plastic after I squish it in the tortilla press. So anyway, so once you get the dough right, I'll pull some of it out from here, and then you just need I'm gonna cook it on cast iron. I used that this morning, and I already made most of them. And later on, when Becky's done here, we'll try cooking a few of the tortillas up over there, and then as well as her flatbread. But I already got some pre-cooked ones that you can try. So they're in here. This is a tortilla warmer. Just got a little clam opening there. You can stuff them really easy off your spatula. This is really nice. Yeah. So there's some in there. They're still kind of warm. And I probably was done making these around 8:30 this morning. So that's those. Becky and Andrew had this kind. So I put a towel in there. I've got some tortillas in there too. And they're still fairly warm too. And then this is the dough. I'll show you how to squish some out here. So, mind your way. Sweet potato. Yeah. So I've got a bunch here. We might tear them in half, but everyone could try a little bit if you like. And what they say to do is, Becky had a Ziploc bag she was willing to part with, and I cut it up. So you can use a Ziploc bag or any piece of plastic. Parchment paper might work. I started with this, but it was too wet, and I ended up scraping it off. And then I'm going to go back to the plastic, I think. And I brought this out. I did mix the dough with this thing, whatever this thing is called. Anybody know?
Pastry.
Thank you. See, I don't belong in the kitchen. I don't know what this called.
I was gonna also say the plastic that comes with your cereal. You
Oh,
can use
yeah.
a lot of those. So that's
Oh,
what we
reuse
use.
that too. Perfect. They're a little heavier.
Yes, so that's what we use when we do the.
When you do them? Nice. Yeah. Okay, so you can see where I kind of had the tortillas in here earlier this morning. But so whatever, yeah, plastic, something that's the dough will come off of, basically. So we'll put that one in there, and then let's see. You roll these little things up into some dough balls. You can do it all at once, or sometimes I just have one cooking while I make the next one and squish it, get it ready to go. So I just put that in there. I'm gonna figure out which side I had this on here earlier. There we go. And this one goes on top. And then you just close that up and give it a little squish. You don't have to push super hard. So that started it. And then you just do a quarter turn. Little squish. Keep doing a quarter turn. Okay. And then there you go. So then you end up something like this. And then you're just going to peel off. And then you just try to peel it off here. Okay. And then I'm going to take that and do that. Okay. And then that's going to be on the hot stove, ready to cook. And it's just going to take a few minutes, 30 seconds or even. I noticed with the sweet potato, they tend to bubble a little bit more, but just give it enough time until you can get it underneath the scapula. Sorry. I am not at work. Spatula. There we go. The spatula. Scapula. Looks like a scapula. Kinda. Anyway, metal spatula. Or wood, but metal works really nice in the cast iron. Yeah, and then just go flip it off, and then you can lay it on a towel to cool down, or you can stick it right into one of these little deals to keep it warm. I noticed when you put them in here that they'll kind of soften because there's a lot of steam in there, so it'll be a little softer tortilla. If you let it cook a little bit longer, if you want a crispy one, then have at it.
When you're hungry, you're doing off-grid stuff, and you maybe don't have everything, you can't store everything, or so the simpler the better and quicker to just get it out there. So you can tell it's kind of browning up there. And these don't take too long to. I put this extra spacer on here because it was running pretty hot, so you can adjust how hot your rocket stove is by how many spacers you have.
Oh.
So we started with just these little brick thing sections, and then I put this on because it was really steaming up pretty big time.
Oh.
So we gave it more space. So we check it, but it's getting more solid like, so you can tell it's about done there. And that's pretty good. Again, you can use these metal spatulas and wooden ones, or there's thick silicone ones you could probably use too. Just definitely not plastic, of course.
No.
Melt it right up. But yeah, these are rocket stoves are fun. So this one's probably done.